Hello dear students, I am Samir Velankar. I welcome all of you to this video which is based on the topic asymptotic notations. Now this asymptotic notations are very useful, very important to specify time complexity of an algorithm. So when you will be finding time complexity or even space complexity, you will be using these notations. Now, just observe one thing that these notations are nothing more than notations. For example, this notation is integration notation or this notation is summation. So it is nothing more than these notations. I mean, but it is so important to know the meaning of these notations. Like we have got three notations: big O, write this O as big as possible, big O notation, then omega notation, and theta notation. And in this video, I will be giving only mathematical introduction of these notations. Just treat this purely mathematical. Just don't worry about the algorithms and how they are exactly related to algorithms, how we are going to make use of these notations, these three notations, to specify time and space complexity of an algorithm. The student should not bother about that. First, let us give it mathematical treatment. What is the definition of these three notations mathematically? Let's start. The first notation, as you see, is O notation. Now, this O notation is read as big OH notation, big O notation. And write that O as big as possible because there is something called small o notation also. So, this is big O notation. Now, what is the meaning of this? Is suppose if we say Fn is equal to big O, big O of Gn, big O of Gn, where this Fn and Gn both are functions of n. These are functions of n. Okay. Like how we say f of x. So f is a function of x. Like that, this fn and gn are some functions of n, and we are saying that f of n is equal to big O of gn. Suppose we have written this. Suppose we have specified this. Then what it means, it means that fn, check this, fn is always less than or equal to gn. It means fn is always less than or equal to gn. But this gn on the right hand side, the gn is multiplied with some constant, you observe. It's always necessary that you multiply that gn with some constant. So that's why in the definition, we have said fn is equal to big O of gn means fn is less than or equal to c1 times gn. Isn't it so? Where c1 is some positive constant. Check the words very carefully. For some positive constant, c1, this is true. That is, fn will be always less than or equal to c1 times gn for some positive constant c1 and n greater than or equal to n naught. That means this relation less than or equal to relation is true not for all values of n. I repeat, not for all values of n, but only for those values of n which are greater than or equal to n naught, where n naught is also called threshold. Like this relation for some function might be true for n greater than or equal to, say, 6. That means this relation is not true for n lower than 6, but from 6 or above up to infinity, this relation is always true. So what it means is, suppose I say this is true only for n greater than or equal to 6, suppose, then f1 less than or equal to c1 times g1. Look, I have put n as 1 here, is not true, is not true, or may not be true. Or f2 less than or equal to c1 times g2 is not true. But f6 less than or equal to c1 times g6 is true, is true. And this will be true forever now for any value of n which is larger than 6 up to infinity. So read it out again. Fn is equal to big O of Gn means Fn is lower than Gn. Fn is smaller than Gn. Value of Fn is smaller than Gn for some positive constant C1, some constant C1, and this relation is true for all values of n which are greater than or equal to some threshold like n naught. Let's see some examples. Suppose I have a function fn like this, which is n square by 2 plus n by 2, and another function gn, which is n square. So n square by 2 plus n by 2. Now this is fn, correct? And another function is n square. This is gn. Now first of all, you agree that fn is a function of n? Yes, clearly it is a polynomial of degree 2 and it is a function of n, and gn is also a function of n. Clearly it is a polynomial in n, having degree 2. Now can we prove that fn is always less than or equal to gn? Is n square by 2 plus n by 2 always less than or equal to n square? Indeed, there is nothing adventurous here, isn't it? Nothing extraordinary, because the left hand side fn is having n square by 2 and right hand side gn is having n square. So obviously fn will be less than or equal to n square, isn't it? That is gn. So this is true. Fn is below gn. But in the definition, we are asked to multiply gn with some constant. Check this constant. We need some constant here, and you will agree one constant 1 is enough. I mean, we just don't have to make this gn bigger so that it becomes bigger than fn. Fn is already smaller than gn. With constant c1 is enough. What that means is, coming back to this, whatever I have written in English, in black, is basically it is easy to prove that n square by 2 plus n by 2, this is fn is indeed less than or equal to 1 into n square, this is gn. Well, wait a minute. This is true for n equal to 1. Observe, n equal to 2 up to n equal to infinity. This is always true. In fact, this is true for n equal to 0 also. Just check. If you put n square by 2 plus n by 2, is it less than or equal to 1 into n square? Gn. This is gn. Put n as 1. If n is 1, this will become 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2, which is 1. Is it less than or equal to 1 into the right hand side is 1 square, because n is 1 will become 1, and 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2, 1 is indeed less than or equal to 1, correct or not? Like that, if you put n as 2, it will be still true, because if you put n as 2, the left hand side will become 2 square upon 2 plus 2 upon 2. Is it less than or equal to 1 into 2 square? So this is going to become 4 by 2, which is 2, 2 plus 2 by 2, which is 1. So 2 plus 1, 3, 3. Is it less than or equal to 1 into 2 square, 1 into 2 square, which is 4, which is true. So Fn, the left hand side, is less than or equal to 1 into Gn. Constant is 1. And it is true now up to infinity from n equal to 1, isn't it? In fact, it is true for n equal to 0 also, you observe. Yeah. But I usually, specify this particular Fn is equal to O of Gn from positive values of n, because in our literature, when we work with algorithms, this n is usually data size. Like n is size of the array, n is size of matrix. Then n, it is true, something is true for n greater than or equal to 0 is very funny, isn't it? You don't have data size of 0. Anyway, I don't mind in pure mathematics if you put n naught properly, for which values of n is this true onwards up to infinity. But 1 is okay. From 1 onwards, if it is true, or from 6 onwards, it is true. For some positive value of n onwards, it is true up to infinity. If you are able to prove that, then it is enough for our subject at least. So coming back to what we were solving is n square by 2 plus n by 2 is indeed less than or equal to 1 into n square. For C1 equal to 1, see that we have chosen the constant C1 as 1 was enough. And this is true for n greater than or equal to 1, so n naught is 1. Yes, it is true from 1 onwards up to infinity. Hence, we can say Fn is surely O of Gn. Fn is big O of Gn. Now, in the beginning of the lecture, I said that this big O notation is nothing more than a notation, isn't it? So, suppose next time, if you see somebody saying that Tn is equal to O of n square, suppose you read this. Okay. So what you understand, that this Tn is nothing but a function of n. Huh? I again I warn all of you, don't think of algorithm right now and don't think of time complexity. But tell me, like Fn, isn't Tn a function? Tn is some function of n. And what we have written in the bracket of O n square is a function, definitely. N square is a function. So what this means is Tn, value of Tn, this function will be always less than or equal to n square. Because now Gn, O of Gn, isn't it? So O of Gn is n square. But then you know that we have to multiply this Gn with some constant, that is C1. But check that when we write big O notation, we don't write that constant. We simply remove that constant. Once we have proved that for some constant this is true, we have proved, then it is not necessary to write constant. We can simply write Tn is equal to n square. Now reader would know, okay, Tn, value of Tn is always less than or equal to value of n square. But the reader is also cautious. Reader knows that Tn is less than or equal to C1 times n square. Now this is the fact that reader knows. Although it is not written in big O notation, what is the value of C1? In our example, we got C1 equal to 1, but we simply kill that constant. And we say it is enough to say Tn is equal to On square. Okay, I hope you are understanding mathematics and how to read these notations. It's so important before we actually see the application of these notations. Isn't it so? Now, there was an interesting question asked by one of my students in a class that, sir, if Fn is equal to OGN simply means that Fn is less than or equal to C1 times Gn, you are saying, then why don't we write this? I mean, why on the earth that O notation is introduced, isn't it? And make the thing so complicated for us. Why don't we simply write this? Yeah, I fully agree. We can write this, obviously, but when it comes to analysis of and time complexity of the algorithms, mostly we are interested in telling that what is the relation between Fn and Gn as far as their degrees are concerned. Is the fn lower than a function whose degree is 2? Is fn lower than a function whose degree is 3? For example, if I say Tn is equal to big O of n cube, then reader is not interested in knowing what was the constant. Actually, that Tn is less than or equal to n cube, but not purely n cube. Some C1 was multiplied with this, and we had dropped that C1. And in our literature of algorithms, we are not interested in exact relation between the functions, and we are not interested in C1. We just want to know what is the degree of the polynomial for which this was true. Okay, so this is you can say O notation is a very good shortcut notation. It is shortcut notation which will also help readers and make readers comfortable instead of constants running all over here and there. So it's very nice notation which makes our life easy. Let's see one more example. Example 2. Here we have fn is equal to 3n square plus 4n plus 1. So it's again a function of n of degree 2 because 3n square, isn't it? And gn is n square again. So this is also polynomial of degree 2. Now you watch, we are having 3n square plus 4n plus 1. Now this is fn. And somebody asks us, is this fn always less than or equal to gn? And gn given in the question is n square. This is gn. Is this true really? Can 3n square plus 4n plus 1 be less than or equal to n square? Never. How can it be? Come on, here on the left hand side we are having 3n square, and on the right hand side we are having only n square. Then somebody who is beginner would surely say, absolutely not. This cannot be true. Fn will be greater than n square, in fact, because the left hand side contains the term 3n square. But in our definition, remember, you can multiply gn with some constant, and you multiply this gn with some constant such that forcibly you can make gn greater than fn. In other words, you can force fn to become less than gn by making gn bigger, correct or not, by multiplying it with some constant. Now, which constant I should take here? In the first question, it was so easy. It was obvious. You can take constant as 1. Now, you can take best constant over here by adding all the coefficients, of the terms of fn. So you can do 3 plus 4 plus 1, which will give 8. And 8, trust me, 8 is the best constant that you can take. So C1 can be chosen as 8. Okay. Now, I don't say that you have to take 8. There is no such rule that constant must be 8 only. Somebody says, why, sir? I will take C1 as 8,000. I don't have any problem. You take C1 as 8,000, but you see to it that Fn is less than or equal to Gn for that constant. Let's see. So we have taken 3n square plus 4n plus 1 less than or equal to 8 into n square. Is this true for n equal to 1? Now note, if you substitute n equal to 1 on the left hand side, you are going to get 8. And it is less than or equal to, if you substitute n equal to 1 on the right hand side, it is also 8, which is true. 8 is less than or equal to 8. If you put n equal to 2 on the right hand side, then n equal to 2 will give, let me think, 3 into 12 plus 4 into 2, 8 plus 1. So this is going to be 21 left hand side. Is it less than or equal to 8 into 2 square, isn't it? 8 into 2 square, because n is 2. So it's going to be 8 into 4, which is 32. And 21 is indeed less than or equal to 32. Check that this relation, that is Fn less than or equal to C1 times Gn, will be forever true now for any value of n up to infinity. Up to 3, 4, 5 on the both sides, you will always get LHS left hand side less than or equal to RHS right hand side. So we have proved that Fn is less than or equal to C1 times Gn. Hence, once we have proved it or we have confirmed it, we can say that Fn is equal to big O of Gn. I hope you understand. Coming back to that constant C1, Somebody argues, what's so special about adding the terms, adding the coefficients of the terms? Well, I don't mind you taking some other constant. For example, 3n square plus 4n plus 1. We want to prove is it less than or equal to n square. It's not directly possible. You see that fn is in fact greater than gn. Then what if you put 100n square here? So the constant c1 is 100, isn't it? But then you confirm, is it true for n equal to 1, n equal to 2, and will it be true for n equal to infinity? Indeed, it will be true. Indeed, it will be true for some high constant, for some heavy constant. But in many complex cases, it's not always possible to confirm whether it is true, or we get confused. The best theorem is that you add these coefficients, isn't it? And it is going to give you the result. So this is the fastest way of finding that constant C1. Okay, coming back to our example 2, we have Fn is equal to 3n square plus 4n plus 1, and Gn is n square. And indeed, this is true. You see, 3n square plus 4n plus 1 is less than or equal to 8n square. So it's true for C1 equal to 8 and n greater than or equal to 1. Hence, we can declare that given Fn will be equal to O of Gn. Now starts the fun part. You see, after having discussed first two examples, most of the students feel that, okay, given any Fn and Gn, we can prove that Fn is equal to OGN because we can multiply Gn with a constant. I'm sure the same thought came to your mind. You see, it seems that everybody thinks that any function can be proved to be big O of Gn. Come on, because we are multiplying Gn with very large constant, or we are allowed to do that. But this is not true. Not every Fn is big O of Gn. Let me prove. Let's take Fn is equal to 3n cube plus 4n square plus 2n plus 1, and Gn is n square. Now check that. 3n cube plus 4n square plus 2n plus 1. This is Fn. Fn. Is this less than or equal to n square? We are asked, isn't it? This is Gn, n square. No way. How can it be? How can it be? Come on. Come on. The left-hand side, Fn, is having a polynomial of degree 3. There is n cube term. And the right-hand side, Gn, is having a polynomial of degree 2. N square is the largest term. Definitely for some value of n, some value of n up to infinity, take some large value of n cube on the left-hand side will defeat n square, isn't it? N cube is going to be larger than n square. Definitely. Correct or not? Now somebody might argue, but sir, we are allowed to multiply this Gn with some constant. Okay, I don't mind. So which constant should I take? Let's take the addition of the terms 3 plus 4, 7 plus 3, 10. So I'll take the constant as 10. All right. Now if you put n as 1 on the left hand side and n as 1 on the right hand side, you will see this is true. For n equal to 2, this is true. For n equal to 3, this is true. Okay, I agree. This is true for many values of n. But is this true for all values of n? Now you just check, you put n equal to 10 here, n equal to 10. If you put n equal to 10, the left hand side will become 3 into 10 cube plus 4 into 10 square, isn't it? Plus 2 into 10 plus 1. And what will left hand side become? 10 into 10 cube, isn't it? 10 into 10 cube, 10 square, I'm sorry, 10 into 10 square. So the left hand side will become 10 cube and the right hand side will become 10 cube, isn't it? And the left hand side contains 3 into 10 cube. Come on, how can be Fn less than Gn? Fn will definitely defeat Gn for some large value of n, because Fn has a higher degree. It has a degree of 3 and Gn has a degree of 2. So it is impossible for any constant. Take any large constant. Somebody will say, sir, let's take constant as 8000. I don't mind. You take that constant as 8000. 3n cube plus 4n square plus 2n plus 1. Is it less than or equal to n square? Let's take the constant as 8000. Okay, no problem. But then what will happen when n will be 8000? This term will be 3 into 8000 cube. isn't it? And so on. Is it less than or equal to 8,000 into 8,000 square? Is it? You see that this left hand side term itself contains 3 into 8,000, isn't it? And the right hand side term contains 8,000 cube only. So it is impossible to prove that Fn is O of Gn. So not every function is O of every other function. This thought comes to reader's mind when reader sees that we are allowed to multiply Gn with a constant, but that constant is of no use if Fn is having higher degree than Gn. So coming back to our content written in black, you just check that it cannot be proved here, correct? It cannot be proved that this is true, isn't it? For any constant C1 and n greater than or equal to n. Why? What's the reason? Because degree of Fn, degree of Fn is larger than degree of Gn, isn't it? So Fn cannot be less than Gn for all values of n. I hope you have understood mathematics. It's just comparing functions. What we are doing in big O notation, we are comparing functions. We are finding whether one function is less than other function. That's it. That's what is the meaning of big O notation. So therefore, Fn is not big O of Gn. In this example, it cannot be proved. So some observations worth. You cannot afford to forget what I am telling. The three things. Just check the first one. Fn is definitely O of Gn if degree of Fn is less than or equal to degree of Gn. See in the first example, we had n square by 2 plus n by 2 and we had Gn as n square. This was Fn and Gn was n square. Did we prove that Fn is O of Gn? Yes, we were able to prove. We were able to prove that because degree of both the polynomials was equal degree we had, isn't it? Both polynomials were of equal degree. In the second example, we had 3n square plus 4n plus 1. This was Fn and Gn was n square. Okay, did we prove that Fn is OGN? Yes, we had proved because degree of both the polynomials was equal. Okay, now just check this. Just check this. Suppose we have something like this: n plus 1. This is Fn. This is Fn. Is it less than or equal to n square? This is Gn. Oh, what a funny question. Of course, n plus 1 will be less than or equal to n square, isn't it? Definitely, isn't it? Because the right hand side Gn is having higher degree. That means Fn will be O of Gn definitely if degree of Fn is lower, is less than. Degree of Fn is less than degree of Gn. Isn't it so? No, so is n plus 1 less than or equal to n cube? Yes, of course. Is n plus 1 less than or equal to n raised to 6? Definitely. So what's the first observation? What is the first observation written over there in the first point is Fn is definitely O of Gn if degree of Fn is less than or equal to degree of Gn. But second point you observe, Fn is definitely not O of Gn. Fn is not less than Gn if degree of Fn is greater than degree of Gn, isn't it? Like n raised to 6 plus 7, this is Fn, cannot be O of if Gn given is n square. Cannot be O of Gn. For any constant, C1, this cannot be proved. And the third point is O notation gives upper bound of the function Fn. Now this is very interesting. O notation gives upper bound of Fn. If I say Fn is O of Gn, then we know that Fn is less than or equal to Gn multiplied with some constant C1. So you tell me, isn't Fn always below Gn? Or we can say Gn is always above Fn. Gn, value of Gn is always above Fn. So Gn gives upper bound of Fn. Remember this. Okay. Again, a warning. Don't treat algorithmically. Right now, treat only mathematically. We are only comparing functions. Is one function less than the other function? Okay. In the next video, we will see two notations, omega and theta. I know this video was a bit longer. It was necessary. I hope you are understanding. More examples will come back with in the next video. Thank you very much.